Hi, good morning, everyone. This is Tammy Bednar coming to you from Oracle headquarters and beautiful Redwood Shores. And I'm drinking my coffee this morning, as you can see. I definitely need a cup of jolt this morning. Before we start talking about our topic today, I just want to give a big shout out to our partners that we met with in Spain last week. What a great partner event, and it was just fantastic to connect with all our partners that I don't get to see very often. But I want to thank you for all of your hard work that you do with the Database Appliance. We really appreciate your support. So any of you customers out there looking for a great partner, we have some fantastic ones, and I'm happy to hook you up with some of those great partners from all over the world. So let's get to what we were going to chat about today. Database Appliance and automated deployment. So last week, I kind of started talking about the different capabilities of the Database Appliance. And we just want to remind you of what those are. So let me just get my PowerPoint up here just to give you kind of a little idea of what we're doing. And we're going to share with our window here. And here it is. Whoops. Not working too good this morning. Here we go. So here's the Database Appliance, simple, optimized, affordable path to the cloud. And we want to talk about automated deployment. So why is automated deployment so important to talk about? Well, first of all, the reason that I think it's really important to talk about automated deployment is because the best practices that go in. This is the true value, or one of the true values of the Database Appliance, is to be able to very easily deploy it within a matter of minutes. Now, we've had this automated deployment since we released the Database Appliance. The only thing you needed to provide was just a few of the IP addresses, the system names. If you wanted to create a database as well during the deployment, we built in all the configuration of the Database Appliance to be automated. Now, the great thing about this automation means that every time you deploy a Database Appliance, it's always going to be exactly the same. It comes with this standardization. Now, I know a lot of you have a lot of work on your plate, and you don't want to have to think about every time you deploy the system that you make sure that the scripts haven't been modified, and that you want to make sure that the files are always laid out the same, because it's going to make your job a lot easier to have the standardization that when you deploy a platform, you always know where your database homes are going to be located, where your grid infrastructure will be located, how the storage will be configured. There's a lot to do, and I really applaud all of you DBAs out there and system administrators that have all these systems to support the business, because it's so important to be able to support the business in the best possible way. So you really have a heavy load that you carry on your shoulders to provide that business that great service that you provide and expertise. And what the Database Appliance, what we want to achieve is to work with you as partners to help you achieve that with a lot less. So this automated deployment with the Database Appliance really we're trying to help each other and help you to be able to understand how to deploy the platform, make sure it's always standardized, and also, of course, most importantly, it's deploy with best practices. We've done a lot of testing over the years with the Database Appliance and working with customers like you to understand the kinds of needs that the business requires. And that's why, that's really, you're getting all this expertise built into the Database Appliance when you get it. And automated deployment, again, is just one of those first values that provides that ability to standardize, to be able to allow you to do a lot more with a lot less resources. So let's take a look at one of the slides on when you deploy with the Database Appliance. Is the ability to view or let me back up. So the ability to use the Database Appliance web console with the ODA CLI stack. It's the latest Database Appliance stack available on the ODA models. And I want to show you the web console. We've done a lot of work with the web console, and I'm really excited about all the functionality that we have coming in the web console as well. So let's take a look just really quick at what this looks like. So if you, oops, hold on one second. Whoops, sorry about that. A little minor glitch this morning. Okay, so what we want to do is present. Okay, here we go. There we go. All right. So here is the web console right here, the web console window. And as you can see, this is to get to the log. Before you get to this console, there's a couple of steps you have to do for the Database Appliance. The first thing you have to do is plumb the network. When you do this with a configure first net, answer a few questions like what's the IP address, what's a net mask, your gateway, right? You plumb the network on your Database Appliance. And once you've done that, then you're going to go open a browser to this web console. Now, by the way, all the browsers work, but what we found is Chrome right now works the best with the web console browser. So you type in HTTPS, the IP address that you just plumbed the network with the port using port number 7093/mgmt/index.html. And this web console will pop up. Now, remember, this is on the ODA CLI stack. And the username right now is ODA-admin. And you type in a password. Now, the old web, before 12.213 release, the password was welcome1. That's not probably a good security password, right? I think we've all been hit with looking at all the different password algorithms. So starting with the 12.213 release, it will prompt you for a new password before you can even log in. And so you put in the new password, and then you're going to log in with that new password. On the single node appliances, of course, you only have one node, so that makes it easy. If you're running the X7HA, you need to make sure you're on node 0 before you deploy the Database Appliance. So you always want to deploy the Database Appliance on the HA on node 0. If you're not sure which server or compute is node 0, take a look at the documentation and the pictures. The node 0 is determined by the way that the ODA is cabled up, and that's how we identify which is node 0 and node 1. So make sure that you always attach or deploy the ODA from node 0. So once you log into the web console, then it recognizes that the Database Appliance hasn't been deployed yet. So you click on Create Appliance, and from that point, you start entering the prompts, such as your system name, the DNS. So you can have up to three DNS IPs, and then you can also put in the NTP server IPs as well, so you can do some better timekeeping. The NTP server really is important if you are doing some kind of replication and you need to keep all the servers or platforms of where you're replicating when you submit the transactions going across each of the server nodes. So that's what NTP is important for. If you don't really need NTP, then Oracle or ODA will provide an NTP service internal to the ODA platform, just FYI. At that point, then you're going to specify how much usable storage you want to be allocated to data. And we kind of have a slide bar being able to allocate anywhere between 10 to 90% of the usable storage on the Database Appliance at the time when it deploys to be allocated to data. So again, depending on which of the hardware models that you have and which kind of storage really depends on what kind of space that we have available. So between 10 or 90%, you can determine what goes to data, and then the rest of the usable space will be allocated usually to RICO. If you're on the S and the M, the RICO also contains your archive logs and your fast recovery area. So you want to keep that in mind when you allocate space into your data disk groups, where all this usable space is going to be allocated to. Then you're going to, then at the same time, you're going to provide the new root password name. That's called the system name. Don't forget that, because I've done that on an ODA, and now I've got to like try to figure out how to get back into the system. So you're going to put in the system name. And again, starting with the 12.2.1.3 release of the Database Appliance, we've got a password algorithm that makes it a little bit more complex, so somebody can't just log into your system. So you need to protect it. And then if you scroll down to the page, then you will be prompted for the node name, the system, your IP address. Now, starting with 12.2.1.3, we pick that up automatically from that configure first net to plumb the network. So your IP addresses and your net mask are already, and your gateway are already filled in for you into the Database Appliance, the Create Appliance page. And at that point, if you scroll down a little more, then you can select whether you want to just go ahead and deploy with the standard users or default users that are created and the IDs that are on the operating system. Now, if you are used to working with certain IDs for different users, you can customize that. I can tell you that it just makes it easier by going by the default. Again, the default for the Database Appliance is using best practices based on the Oracle stack, understanding how all the different layers work together. If you need to customize it, do, but as I said, it's just easier to go with the default. And then finally, you get to select whether you want to deploy a database at the time when you provision the Database Appliance. Excuse me. So you can either choose from our versions that are supported, which are 12.2.01, 12.1.02, and 11.2.04. And of course, the versions that are listed in the Database Appliance is based on the clone files that you've uploaded into the repository. Now, once you pick a database, and by the way, it is optional whether you want to deploy a database at the time you provision ODA or not, then you can select whether you want to use ASM or ACFS as the database storage. Now, for 11.2.04 databases, you have to select ACFS. There's no other choice. Now, for version 12 databases, you can use ASM or ACFS. Now, ACFS has some great benefits that provide snapshotting technology to create very fast database clones. We'll talk about that at another time. So at that point, then you put in the password for your Oracle sys user, and then finally you can select to use ASR or configure ASR. If you don't want to configure ASR at the time of deployment, you can always come back and configure it later, and then you submit. Once you've submitted this job, then you can go look at the activity monitor and kind of keep track of where it is, the Database Appliance is in its process to deploy the system. Now, we used to joke that, you know, once you press that submit button, you can go get some more coffee and take a break, and then when you get back, it'll be all done. We've seen that happen many a time. So, Database Appliance automated deployment. I think the very best value of that is it's standardized. It always is the same configuration. You understand exactly how everything's laid out. And we're setting you up for the best practices to make help you with your job, to make things a lot easier and be right out of the box, right the first time. So anyway, that's our discussion on Database Appliance automated deployment. Thank you for joining me today. It's been a great pleasure to be with you, and I'm honored that you've joined us. So again, if you have any topics that you'd like to talk about, send them my way. Until next time, have a great week. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.